Well, hello to everybody watching out there on Facebook Live and maybe also on YouTube, WCTV Sports YouTube page as well. It's Thursday night. It is football season, and that, of course, means it's time for Voice to Voice. Thanks again for tuning in with us. Boy, what a 3-week span it has been for the Florida State Seminoles. We weren't able to talk to the voice of the Seminoles, Jeff Culhane, last week. Very busy man with men's basketball starting up, of course, pulling double duty now as the voice of the Noles, but what a 3 weeks. Georgia Tech, Miami, Syracuse. It doesn't matter the opponent. The result was always the same. An absolute bludgeoning at the hands of the Florida State Seminoles, who now find themselves with 7 wins, looking for 8. And then, of course, if you can get past the Louisiana Raging Cajuns on Saturday, it's a Black Friday showdown against the Gators for a 9-win season. All things that I would imagine some folks found just a dream a couple months ago. Now, absolute reality if Florida State can take care of business these next 2 weeks. We don't have a live chat going on tonight. Well, we do. Feel free to leave your comments, but we're not going to be able to do a Q&A afterwards this evening. We'll try to maybe get to some of those next week. Of course, we're still trying to figure out when we will do Voice to Voice next week. Obviously, next Thursday is the Thanksgiving holiday. Want to give Mr. Culhane a chance to be with his family and mine, of course, as well. But we will have a Voice to Voice. We will preview, of course, the big matchup between Florida and Florida State. But let's get right into it this week. There's a lot to talk about. This interview is just a little under 25 minutes, so we can't really afford to have me blabbing all too much. Here it is, this week's Voice to Voice with myself and voice of the Seminoles, Mr. Jeff Culhane.
Just 2 weeks left in the college football regular season, and boy, they are of monumental importance to the Seminoles of Florida State. Joined, of course, as always, by the voice of the Seminoles, Mr. Jeff Culhane. Jeff, football, basketball, I mean, we've hit November. It's just that time of year, man.
Crossover month. Kiss your loved ones goodbye for, 30 to 45 days, maybe longer, but there's a lot of things happening, a lot of fun things going on, and what a run here by Mike Norvell and his Florida State football team. They're cooking right now. It's been fun to follow, fun to watch.
And the last time we chatted was right before Georgia Tech. Of course, things have been very, very dominant since then. Or excuse me, right before the Miami Hurricanes, beg your pardon. But 3 straight wins, and they've all come in the exact same way. They've been physical. They've been gritty. From bell to bell, Florida State has dominated these games, including, of course, a 38-3 victory over the weekend in Syracuse against the Orange, a game a lot of people thought might be tight, even if Florida State was favored, but the Noles dispelled any notion of that early. You were there at the Dome. I didn't get a chance to travel, but was it as dominant there as it looked on TV? Because it was a complete performance on ACC Network.
Yeah, it really was. It was impressive. It was dominant from start to finish. And, I think we're going to talk, I'm sure, a lot about how this team is doing it right now. But I see a high level of connectivity, Ryan, across the board, a high level of complementary football, and the way this offense is running the ball right now. Jordan Travis, we keep talking about him, and rightly so. He keeps getting better game in and game out. And the defense hasn't allowed a touchdown in 23 consecutive drives. That's just, it's unfathomable to think about. So you've got a football team right now that has been putting in the work. They've been locked into their head coach's message. It's been a consistent message. It's about us. It's about who we are and what we do. And this team's believing right now, and it's showing out there on the field.
And, you brought that up about them buying what Coach Norvell's selling. So many times you heard it thrown about over these last couple seasons. Florida State needs a proof of concept for what this program is under Mike Norvell. They need to show people, show recruits, show the public, this is what this can look like. You got it. I mean, if it's any better than this, goodness gracious. But this is the identity of this football team. The identity is very, very clear. It doesn't feel like they're searching to find it anymore. This is physical. This is aggressive. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play stingy defense. And at the end of the day, they're going to keep you out of the end zone and find themselves in the end zone a whole lot.
Well, they've addressed their needs from before the season, right? With offensive line, wide receivers. They brought some more pieces in at linebacker and defensive end. So you brought your talent in, and you replaced the departing players that went to the NFL or had big roles, and and contributed in a big time way. And now they have completely come together and are doing it across the board in all three phases. And so it's been very impressive to follow, amazing to watch. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Coach Norvell. It was, COVID, never fun. The first four games a year ago, and then the finish to last year. And now coming out of the bye week, this is a football team that is a top 20 team in college football right now, and playing just about as well as anybody around the country at this time of the year in the month of November. It's building that momentum into this offseason, which is exciting to think about and talk about.
And the first unit you brought up there is the offensive line. As happy as you got to be for Mike Norvell, you got to be thrilled for Alex Atkins. We'll talk about how the offensive line goes into the running game in tandem, but they address their needs in the portal, like you said. But even still, plenty of season-ending injuries early on for this unit, and yet they've held up. They've held their own. They're, of course, a key part of a top 10 offensive unit in the country. The fact that not only did you address your needs, but it appears as though you've built brilliant depth. No one's going to tell you that they're the best offensive line in the country, but they will tell you right now they'll hold their own against just about anybody, especially when it comes to running the football.
Well, that's Alex Atkins and his group, Gabe Pertia and the guys that are behind the scenes with what they're doing and what they've accomplished. And that's why Alex Atkins is being brought up in head coaching conversations. Broyles Award nominee for the top assistant coach in all of college football, and rightly so, Ryan. And yeah, you bring up the injuries. People forget Caden Lyles thought maybe he would start at center. Les Harris was the starting right tackle in the Duquesne game and got hurt, lost for the season. And this group has just had a next man up mentality and not made any excuses in any way, shape, or form. And I think they're playing like one of the best offensive lines right now in all of college football. I mean, 5 consecutive games of 200 yards or more rushing the football. That hasn't been done since 1995 at Florida State. And they're allowing the least amount of sacks in the ACC as well. And this isn't, Jordan Travis is standing in the pocket and has plenty of time to throw the ball and go through his progression. So this offensive line, I know, has taken a lot of criticism over the last 6-7 years or so. They deserve a high level of praise right now because they're playing like one of the best in all of college football.
Yes, they do, and so does the guy that is running right behind them. We know Florida State's got a great three-headed monster. It was great to have Trayshawn Ward back over the weekend. But the emergence of Trey Benson, he's a guy that we saw in fall camp as early on as that. When the flashes were there, it was special, even going against Florida State's defense in August. But now that he's been able to put it together on the field, now that he's been able to be that guy against Miami and against Syracuse, just with when he explodes, and he is hard to bring down. What do you think has really helped him flip the switch here, Jeff?
Well, there's so many unintended consequences with an injury, and nobody wants to see anybody go down because Trayshawn Ward was the guy. He was the number one back in this offense when he got hurt after he ripped off, I think it was a 38-yard run in the second quarter at NC State. I think his injury forced more upon Trey Benson and Lawrence Toafili. And to their credit, both of those young men have ran with those opportunities and taken their games to another level. And Trey Benson has vaulted himself into the conversation as a first-team all-conference running back in this league. I don't think there's any question about that with what he's doing. I mean, 3 straight weeks as ACC running back of the week. That's never happened before in the history of the league. You look at all the analytics, and my goodness, Ryan, I am awful with numbers, so I'm not going to try and even figure it all out. But the people that know say that he is the toughest guy to tackle in all of college football. The yards after contact, the amount of broken tackles that he has. I just know what my eyeballs tell me, and my eyeballs tell me that nobody wants to tackle this guy, and rightly so. They are afraid to make contact with Trey Benson because of how violent he runs with the football. He never goes down on first contact. Frankly, it's third or fourth contact. And so 20-plus yard rushes, I believe he's around, I think the number is 13. He has more than some teams total this year running the football. And his addition, we thought out of spring that this guy had a chance to really do something special. I don't know if we all envisioned this. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just made this offense. How do you even attack this offense right now if you're a defensive coordinator? They can run the football, they can throw it short, they can press you down the field. Of course, we talked about the additions on offensive line, the additions on wide receiver have shown that time and time again. When you've got a guy with the body type of Johnny Wilson who can blow the lid open, I mean, Florida State right now, there are so many different ways. And I feel like this is the Mike Norvell offense that if you were a Florida State fan in December of 2019 and you heard this is the guy that's coming to coach your football team, this is what you saw on YouTube when you Googled Memphis Tigers. This is that. This is finally what this scheme is supposed to be coming to fruition because you have the personnel and you have the buy-in.
I'm glad I don't have to answer that first question you asked because I have no idea. I would be having nightmares that week trying to prepare for this group right now because they're doing everything right. They are running the football. They are protecting the quarterback. The quarterback can run. He's not a statue back there. Oh, yeah. And he, in the last two games, is 31 of 35 throwing the football for nearly 360 yards, 6 touchdown passes. Yeah, just a creative play caller and offensive mind in Mike Norvell, as you talked about. I mean, 4th and goal inside the score zone, and you get an end around tight end pass to the quarterback from a former quarterback and Wyatt Rector to the current quarterback and Jordan Travis. And you've got everybody getting involved, 12 guys catching the football at Syracuse. There's just so much that is going right at this point in time for this offense right now. And Louisiana and Florida, both of these defensive staffs are going to be burning the midnight oil trying to figure out what's going to work best to give them a chance to hang in the game.
And, I'm happy you brought that play up, Jeff, because it works to perfection. Some of the times we've seen Florida State try to get a little tricky in the red zone. It hasn't always worked this season. But I think, A, it shows a little maturity in Mike Norvell as a play caller. And B, it shows a trust in his personnel and what they're able to do. When you're just able to run the football down people's throats now, you don't feel the need to have a whole lot of eye candy. You don't feel the need to do a whole lot of stuff. When you can just line up and say, this is what we're going to do, and you're not going to stop it, it completely changes the calculus when you get inside the 20-yard.
Well, he utilizes everybody on the field, and you got a lot of versatile playmakers in so many ways. I mean, Micah Pittman can run the football. Deuce Spann can run the football. Pokey Wilson can run the football. Your tight ends are in the mix. Wyatt Rector's throwing passes like we talked about a moment ago. And then if you just want to get traditional, you line up and give the ball to the brick, Trey Brick Benson, and let him pound it in there from inside the 5-yard line.
Not to mention you've got a pretty good fullback on the other side of the ball too.
Yeah, and then you got DJ Lundy, who has 3 touchdowns this season as a full-time linebacker and a part-time fullback, right? So it's a group that is gaining confidence, has a ton of momentum right now, and you look to the future with what's returning. Yeah, I think you look at eligibility and the potential of who may move on. Man, this is an offensive unit that if everybody returns along with the incoming pieces next year, this is a scary, scary group into the offseason into 2023.
But Jeff, as good as the offense has been, you mentioned it. What is it? 23 quarters now?
23 drives in a row.
23 drives, 8 quarters, 2 full games. Florida State has not allowed a team in the end zone. And when you watch Florida State play defense, it's very apparent in 2 things. 1, they're completely healthy. 2, they're a team that completely understands this scheme now and is more than willing to go execute what Adam Fuller's telling them to do.
100%. And I used the word connectivity earlier. It's a defense that is connected from line of scrimmage to back end. And that's why you've got the best Power 5 passing defense in America right now. This group is getting to the quarterback. Your linebackers are spying running quarterbacks and able to cover backs out, in the flat or at the next level. And then the secondary led by Jamie Robinson, who accepted an invite to the Senior Bowl the other day. That is deep, is athletic. And now you got Greedy Vance coming in, who all of a sudden now has back-to-back games with picks and leads a team with 3 interceptions. It's a connected group. across the board. And Jared Verse, we talk a lot about him, and rightly so. He may be a first-round draft pick in his only year here at Florida State. I hope he returns, but some of these mock boards are signaling otherwise. And man, I'm excited about the future too. I mean, Patrick Payton, every time he's in the game, he makes a play. Joshua Farmer, you talk about unintended consequences of injuries, getting big reps. He's doing great things in the interior of the defensive line. So a very connected defense from the line of scrimmage to the back end, and it's showing right now late in the year.
And that's what I think you stole a point right out of my mouth. Talking about Josh Farmer, the Gadsden County product, unintended consequences. Sure, you're without some of your star players, but you're developing future players. You're developing future stars. You're developing current depth pieces. Hey, you can't stay in a game for all 80, 90 snaps if you've got a high-flying offense on the other end if you're a big guy. I say that as a big guy. So to have these pieces now and to have quality depth, it's the same thing we were talking about with the offensive line. Florida State's problems have been flipped into opportunities and that they've been able to prepare more guys for actual gameplay on Saturday.
Well, everybody, when you think of the great teams here, and I talk to guys like William Barnum, Floyd, and others, they look at what we're seeing currently, and it reminds them of the great teams in the 1990s because you are winning big right now, and you are able to get a lot of these young guys extended repetition in the second half. And that's on both sides of the ball. That's defensively up front. That's in the back end. You're seeing Tate Rodemaker play about a quarter and a half at Syracuse. You're getting some younger wide receivers and offensive linemen, some opportunities. And all this stuff matters. I mean, people may look at it and go, well, the game's over. We're going to turn it off. This is a big part of building a program. And it's what happened under Bobby Bowden during the great years in the 80s and the 90s and 2000s here at Florida State. So you're seeing the steps, the blueprint, the process that Mike Norvell, the term that he uses, coming together right now. And when you can have these kinds of these reps late in games. And the other thing people won't talk about that's huge, Ryan, is going to a bowl game is going to create another month of practice. And
15 free ones.
Yep. And a lot of people call that winter camp. You're going to be able to develop your younger guys during that period of time as well. And that's a huge, huge asset to a football program that is by no means a finished product. It's not there yet, but it's getting there. It's getting pretty close.
Yeah, if you're a coach, one of the best sights you can see in the fourth quarter is QB1 with a ball cap on, as long as he's healthy. But turning our attention to the future now, Jeff, Louisiana, obviously, you got to take every opponent seriously, but you are a 24-point favorite for a reason in this game. Florida State and the team have to focus on that and can't get carried away with what's going to be happening next Friday when your big rival from Gainesville comes to town. So all that being said, we know the team has to focus solely on this noon kickoff Saturday. But speaking big picture about the end of this regular season, just how important is it to close this down and go 2-0?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's huge, and this is another unique challenge. Coaches are always looking for an angle. How do we approach this week? How do we approach this day? How do we get better? I thought it was very interesting Monday. A lot of the questions about, hey, you guys are playing great. How much better can you get right now? How hard do you coach? And we kind of got looked at like we were aliens. Like, what are you talking about? We're 7-3. We're not 10-0. And so this is a staff that has a high level of understanding and a high level of how to win too. They've all won a bit wherever they have been at, and now it's all coming together and in the right equation here in Tallahassee at Florida State. So, closing this out is what exactly you want to do, because you want to win every single game that you play, but you take the momentum into the month of December. And of course, Florida next week is a huge, just like we talked about with Miami, bragging rights, recruiting. You want to end the season on a high note. You get to, as fans, you talk trash for the next 365 days. And so there's a lot of those off the field items as well that are so big when you talk about that game with Florida State and Florida. But I think for this week in Louisiana, it goes back to take care of your business. Mike Norvell says, all we need is us. I think this is one of those types of games. It doesn't matter what the opponent does. Play at a high level, avoid the mistakes. This team has been great starting fast this year. Jump on a team that on paper is not as good as you. They're a team that's won a lot of games in the last couple of years as well. So they know how to win in big games. They have some experience with that. So don't let them hang around. Don't let them build confidence or gain confidence. Take them out of the game right away and make the second half kind of feel like the last 3 weeks where you get some younger guys in and get some more reps and more development.
Finally, Jeff, early in this season, I think if you're a Florida State fan and you're playing wins and losses on the schedule, like all football fans love to do, you're saying, hey, 6, 7, if we get a break here, there, maybe 8. If we go to a bowl game, maybe that can push us to 9. And here Florida State sits with an opportunity for a 9-win regular season. You could argue that you left a couple wins on the table. You're going to go to a bowl game regardless. You're probably going to Orlando or Jacksonville if you take care of business, with a far off possibility of San Diego in the Holiday Bowl. You're going to a big bowl game that's going to be close to New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. You're going to get these opportunities. You're going to get these chances. For Florida State to have over-succeeded, it's outside expectations. Like you said, this coaching staff feels like they've left some on the table. As Leonard Hamilton sometimes like to say, we haven't taken any bows yet. But for Florida State to be sitting here and us to legitimately be talking about, we're recording this 3:30 in the afternoon, November 17th, about a 9-win regular season, a 10-win season if you take care of a bowl game, if you're able to win these next 3 games. Just what does that say not only about the coaching job that Florida State's had this season, but also what does that say about hope to a fan base that's desperately wanted it for so long? You got it.
Well, I think if you ask everyone, at least for me, before the season started with this conversation, I think to a man and a woman that bleeds garnet and gold, 9-3, you would have seen smiles, big smiles on faces. 10 wins. I mean, absolutely, you would sign up for double-digit wins this season, coming off of a 5-7 year a season ago and missing a bowl game. What does it say? It says that this group is on schedule, and that it says all the things that we've been talking about, that we have seen with our access and availability with this program, and Mike Norvell. That Mike Norvell knows what he's doing. He knows how to win. It's all of the items we've discussed. It takes time. I know we're in a microwave society. We want everything to be done immediately. And this program has had about a 6-year or 7-year window where there haven't been a ton of wins, and there hasn't been a high level. There's always high levels of expectation, but not high levels of success overall. I think what you go from is the hope that good things could happen to going back to expecting them to happen like they did in the national championship seasons in the 90s, during all those great times for Florida State football. And so you finish 9-3, and if you get to 10 wins and how you play and look the part doing so, I think the hope changes into more of the expectation in 2023 that this team could be around, depending on who all returns, a preseason top 15, top 12 team in the country. And then you got people extremely excited once again, as always, and even to another level here, getting ready for an offseason with a lot of chatter and excitement.
First bowl game since 2019, first winning season since 2017, first time back in the college football playoff bowl since 2016. You're absolutely right, Jeff. It's not hope anymore. It's starting to turn into expectation. And that, of course, is always when football's at its best in Tallahassee. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. Looking forward to another great weekend here at Doak, and go Noles. Let's have some fun.